Hello, and thank you for watching. My name is Blakeley Bartee, and I'm a reporter for the Aiken Standard. This video is one part of the Aiken Standard's Candidates Forum, a series meant to help you get to know the candidates running for office in November. We sat down with Kelley Mobley and David Beja, the two candidates running for the District 4 seat in the County Council. Our moderator, Colin Demarest, asked each candidate 5 questions and allowed them to make opening and closing statements. The candidates had 2 minutes to answer each question. We are presenting their answers in full with no cuts or editing. So without further ado, please enjoy the video.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is one part of the Aiken Standard's larger Candidates Forum, a series meant to get voters familiar with those running for office in November. I'm Colin Demarest, a reporter with the Aiken Standard, and I'll be your moderator. I'm joined today by Kelley Mobley and David Beja, candidates for Aiken County Council District 4. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Let me explain how this will work. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement. After that, a few questions will be posed to each of you. Candidates will alternate answering first. You each have 2 minutes per question. When we're finished with the questions, each candidate will have 1 minute for closing remarks. Are we ready to begin?
I am. Yes.
Awesome. David, your opening statement.
Well, my name is David Beja. 61 years old, and I decided to run for county council mainly because I want to give back to the community. I've been educated for 33 years, 16 in Aiken County, and I've seen a tremendous amount of improvement in the education system. I feel like at times I've had a soapbox to complain about with my friends. And as a retired teacher, it's now the time to get off the soapbox and to do something for this community, to bring everyone together, both Republicans, Democrats, and independents, so we can all improve our society.
Thank you. Kelley, your opening statement?
Hi, I'm Kelley Mobley. I've been a resident of Aiken County for the better part of the past 47 years and of North Augusta and District 4 for the better part of the past, say, 25 years. I'm excited and honored to be the Republican candidate for the Aiken County Council upcoming election for District 4. For the past 16 years, I've been running a business in the banking business in Aiken County and the entire CSRA, with offices that expanded the entire county, far-reaching to the outer points of the county, 2 offices in North Augusta, 3 offices in Aiken, Beach Island, New Ellington, and I feel like I'm the candidate that brings the experience to the seat.
Thank you. We'll move on to the questions now. We flipped a coin prior, and Kelley, you'll be answering the first question first. You guys will get the same question. What are the biggest challenges to be faced by North Augusta and Aiken County as a whole in the next several years, and what exactly should be done to address them?
The biggest challenge that we face as we look at the growth that we've experienced in North Augusta in particular, in Aiken County, the growth has been both positive and a challenge. And the biggest challenge that we face is succeeding at building a bridge from our historic past to our bright shining future. We've got to make sure as we cross this bridge and build this bridge to the future that we're taking everybody into account, not only the shining objects and the nice new features that we have in our communities that benefit not only our community but those outside of our community. We've got to make sure we're looking at the entirety of the community, looking at the entirety of the growth. You know, it's not just one age group of people that are moving to town and growing our residential base. It's a broad age group, and as such, we need to make sure that we're paying attention to seniors in our community. We need to make sure that we're not only taking care of children every day that are able to get up and function without challenges and go to school, but we need to make sure that we're also looking at needs of the handicapped children in our community and citizens, and make sure that we're paying attention to the broad scope of the entire population. So making sure that we put all the boards in that bridge and that we're looking out after our whole community. You know, and it's nice to see the growth that we have, the economic growth, the residential growth. It's nice to see the diversity of the population that we have. But in that, you know, you get a mix of folks moving to town, and so we've got to make sure that we're paying attention to everybody, as well as adding the new resources that communities thrive from.
Thank you. David?
Well, I kind of agree with some of the things he says, but I also see that there's a difference in our community. It seems to me that the investments in our community have been going to a select group and not on a broad spectrum. While there is change in our North Augusta area, there's an influx of new people with new ideas. It seems to me that a lot of the investment in the last few years that I've been around here in North Augusta has been done without the input of the people itself. The ballpark, for instance, while I do like the ballpark, I don't like the idea that we are now at a shortfall of over $820,000 taxes in the North Augusta because the developer basically reneged on his deal. I think the idea of changes need to be put forth, as well as the idea of the new Savannah Lock and Dam, the idea of trying to change for the environment and improve. Ideas are not just one select point, but it could be brought together for all people, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. As we all claim that we want to do this, it seems to me, from what I can see, it's been done only for a select region or a select area or select group of people. As a Democrat, as an independent basically, but I'm running as a Democrat, I want everyone to understand that there are ways that we can come together. We shouldn't just simply say that this is the way it has to be and that we're not going to worry about it. I see too many times in different societies where we're saying, well, we all have to take that. We just have to accept that. I don't feel that's the necessary way. If we really want to make a unified society, we have to have all voices put inside, not just the ones that seem to donate the most amount of money to our positions or basically our interests.
Thank you. David, you'll answer this question first.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think should be done to attract businesses to Aiken County that are related to the Army's Cyber Command at Fort Gordon? What about the people who will be working there in the near future?
Well, the military at Fort Gordon has already started their cyber development. We have that ability to draw more support industry, but we shouldn't just simply give them the most common sense of what we normally do in the past. That means give them a tax break. Oh, we don't have to tax them. The tax breaks that have been given to corporations and to businesses to redeploy or to move into certain areas don't always affect or at least help the people that are already here. It seems that it's an unfair advantage and it doesn't really bring in that much. We need to showcase what we have to offer. A diverse population. We can improve the aesthetic values of our community. Those things that will entice them. A perfect example of North Augusta is right across the river from downtown Broad Street. What a wonderful time to revitalize Broad Street, North Augusta, the 13th Street Bridge, do things and try to bring things into our community that will entice people something. There's a proposal, or at least a design, for the Savannah Lock and Dam that's actually talking about modifying it where you can increase a formation of rock formations below the new dam, which would actually create a possible artificial waterway, which would entice people to possibly come rafting. Do things that will invite both businesses and families to have other opportunities in this community.
Thank you. Kelley?
As it relates to entertaining what I'll call ancillary business interests, as well as consumers associated with the new Cyber Command and the cyber jobs that are coming to town, we've got to take a multi-pronged approach to what we do with that. What I would say is I think North Augusta is off on the right foot with the new administrator that we've hired. Jim is a wonderful man. and a former garrison commander at Fort Gordon. So we've got a great new connection in North Augusta to what is communications, the cyber command, and what's going on with the fort. Now we've got to take, when it comes to economic development, I understand the perspective that folks have with respect to economic incentives that we give to companies to attract them. But with that said, that's what it takes to recruit industry to your area. We're competing every day with cities and towns across America to attract new industry. And I look at things from a top-down approach. If we have industry, then we have jobs, we have revenue, and then those jobs and that revenue fuels the other businesses that make up our communities, whether it be restaurants, entertainment, healthcare. That income fuels those industries. So with that said, we have to have a mix of everything. We have to have a focus on the top and industrial growth. We have to focus on the midpoint and the businesses that trickle down. But North Augusta is off to a good start with the connection to the fort. We've got a nice influx of consumers that have moved to North Augusta. I sold a house this past year to a couple that came to town just for that. GBI and cyber and another technological company. The couple bought my last house. So we've got that populace coming, and we just got to make sure we keep those business development efforts up to attract new industries and make it attractive for them to come.
Thank you. Kelley, you'll answer this question
Okay.
first again. Earlier this summer, the conveyance of the new Savannah Bluff Lock and Dam to North Augusta, and Aiken County was discussed by local leaders and lawmakers in Washington, D.C. Are you in favor of retaining the lock and dam or of building the rock weir that was proposed by the Army Corps of Engineers, and why? If the structure is retained, how do you think the ownership and management should be handled?
That's a difficult question. I'm glad you ask it. My position is that it should be maintained. I think we have a beautiful, vibrant riverfront in the CSRA. And I'm going to say the CSRA because it's not just a fortunate aspect of what we have in North Augusta, but the citizens of Augusta are fortunate to have it. On the opposite side of the river, we have homes, we have the river walk, you have businesses and buildings that overlook that beautiful body of water. And then North Augusta, we have the same. With that said, I think we can take better advantage of that resource in North Augusta, and I don't think we do enough as a community. And now there are folks out there who drive that effort, and I haven't been a part of it. So I don't understand all the challenges it takes to really fully utilize that body of water. But to utilize it, it's got to be there, and it's got to be at appropriate, safe levels. And from what I've heard, and what I've read, and what I've been informed about, that's really at risk. We've got properties that are at risk. We've got consumers that are at risk for safety that utilize the river. So I think there's a solution there to retain it. With respect to the economic piece and who pays for it, I think it has to be a collaborative effort on both sides of the river. I don't know how you put that together yet. I'm not studied in the aspects of control and the economic mechanism. It's unique as well because the river is regulated by the Corps of Engineers. And we've got that great challenge downstream, and that is probably one of the biggest economic engines for the state of Georgia is the ports in Savannah. And so you've got to look at what that interest is and what that interest is in getting rid of it and having that water. But I'm an advocate for retaining it. I'm an advocate for keeping the river levels up, keeping it safe, and keeping it beautiful.
Thank you. David?
I'm for the rock weir dam, and I'll explain why. The rock weir dam will allow the water to naturally move. And the Corps of Engineers plan, as proposed, is actually ideal. The idea right now that the dam, it has a hole in it, therefore it's not retaining the water. The rock weir dam can be set to an elevated height. The Corps of Engineers would already decide that to ensure that there's not nuisance flooding above the dam. The design is allowing the migrant of fish and also the movement of water, which would reduce the stagnation in the river, which would improve the quality of the water. But as in one also knows in the study of the plan is to also remove the retaining wall that separates between between the South Carolina side and the Augusta side. Once they remove that retaining wall, the Corps is also planned on dredging the sediment level, which would basically negate any drop in the pool of water. The idea of allowing a rock weir dam maintains the quality of the water, which would increase the quality of the fish in the river. As a kid, I remember my dad taking me fishing in the Associates of New York because the Hudson River got so polluted you couldn't. Now, the rock weir dam is only part of the problem. We'd also have to eventually fix the pollution that's in that river, and that would require cooperation between the North Augusta, South Carolina side and the Augusta, Georgia side, which would also help improve the quality of water downstream to the Savannah port, I guess their expansion, the harbor port project, which is ideal, which is great. But the idea is also to improve, there's a middle road. Again, it doesn't have to be one way or the highway. We need to find a cooperated part that can improve the quality for everybody. And I can guarantee you that if it's done the way the Corps of Engineers said, and we put the rock weir in the way it's supposed to be, both sides would enjoy the quality of this river for a long time to come.
Thank you. David, this question will go to you first.
Okay.
With the resurgence of Black Lives Matter and social justice movements in general, what diversity initiatives do you think should be undertaken at the county level?
Oh, easily. That's a question of diversity. We need to basically understand in our hearts how we see things in this world. I see too many people looking at a young man of color as a delinquent, not as a person that may be in trouble. And if we can start realizing that there are different structures, one of the required readings in middle school, in high school, is The Outsiders. And in that situation, you have two basic cultures, the preppy white upper class and then the greasers from the city. I kind of remember how my father would say back in the days in the 1940s and 50s, early 50s, the bikers, the guys in black leather jackets, the greasers were just thugs, future delinquents, no goods. How do we know that? Sometimes we all have to look in our minds and understand that possession of ideas are easily perpetuated. The concept of the bluebirds must stay with the bluebirds and the redbirds fly with the redbirds, that's not the case it is in this world today. In society right now, we have to ask ourselves in our heart, if we saw a policeman in distress, would we protect them? Would we help them? Of course we would. I would. But if I saw a police officer doing something wrong, would I intercede and stop him? Yes, of course I would. I would hope everyone would. How easy is it for us to see a person of color walking down the street armed with a weapon and think about it, he's going to do something wrong? But yet, if we see that same person walking down the street and it happens to be a white person, we don't think anything about it. And too many times we see police officers that actually do the same thing. I'm not saying all police officers are wrong, but I do believe in our society today, there is an innate situation where we prejudge people and we judge them the wrong way. We need to see what's in their hearts and give them a chance to explain the situation. There is not this world, as some people say, like, for instance, the famous 1990s, the welfare queens. We perceive that, and we basically make misinterpretations, and we jump to conclusions. There's only one perfect person in this world, and he died on a cross over 2,000 years ago. My belief is, let us not judge lest we be judged ourselves. And unfortunately, we are too quick to judge without understanding our situation. So I do believe Black Lives Matter.
Thank you. Kelley.
Colin, I'm going to agree with David on something. I'm going to disagree with him on something. I'm going to agree with the fact that the only person that was entitled to judge any of us did die on the cross. I believe that with all my heart. What I'm going to disagree with him on is a portion of what he said with respect to seeing anyone walking down the street with a weapon. I do not believe that, in general as a society, if if a stranger to us is walking down the street, whether they be black or white, walking down the street, if you're walking down West Avenue in North Augusta with a weapon, I and the majority of folks I know, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, whatever, however you choose to identify, I don't believe that innately we're not going to question that situation. I just don't. With that said, I also believe that we're facing a problem on multiple fronts. And those fronts are this. We're facing a problem that's been a problem for the ages, for hundreds of years, with respect to how societies of people look at each other. And that's not okay. We face those challenges today, but in a different year, in a different decade. It's 2020, and the same prejudices exist today that existed hundreds of years ago. What we are challenged to do is find a way to make incremental changes to ideals and beliefs to the best we can. I don't believe in the institutionalization or organized effort to establish what the ideals of society should be. There are certain organizations that I don't support because there are movements behind them that have their own initiatives. And when those movements behind them get to set the ideals for a population, then essentially you're setting the ideals for the economic engine behind them.
Thank you. Kelley, this last question you'll start with.
Okay.
As the Aiken County government struggles with uncompetitive worker pay and continuing infrastructure needs,
Yes.
do you think it's viable for County Council to not increase property taxes in the future? Why or why not?
Tough question to tackle. You know, I sat and talked to some residents of Aiken County this past week, and you know, I am in the unique position that I grew up in Bath, South Carolina. So I grew up in the Milltown area. My grandmother worked in the Bath mill when she was 14 years old. Got a picture of her, you know, standing on a box working at a cotton machine. With that said, I think I have the unique perspective, and that is I'm very fortunate to live in the wonderful town that is North Augusta, but I also understand the trials and tribulations that folks face that live in the unincorporated townships and the residential areas. And with that said, every dollar of tax increase matters, but it doesn't just matter to the individuals that are on a fixed income. It also matters to folks that are in higher income brackets. It's all relative. It all becomes some exponential equation of income, property values, and that sort of thing. So we've got a challenge there that we face, and Gary Bunker and I and other council members have discussed what that might look like, how we're going to tackle the challenges faced with specifically EMS salaries that the council did vote to increase this past month. So you see some salary increases happening there. They've already raised the scales to make the EMS jobs more attractive and to retain employees that we have. And there's been an effort over the past 2 years to look at salary increases across the Aiken County employment base with Aiken County government. So some changes have been made for the better. There's still challenges to come, and we've got to find a way to balance that and balance that budget, retain lower taxes, keep taxes as low as possible, while taking care of the employees that are there. And it's going to be a challenge in the coming years. There's no doubt about it. And whether you're Democrat or Republican, you're going to have to face that challenge. And you're going to have to make tough decisions for that some people are going to like and some people aren't. And the tough decision could be keeping taxes the same or not. But hopefully we can.
Thank you. David?
Well, taxation has always been a problem in this country. It goes back to the 7th Revolution. Taxation without representation is one of the biggest problems in our country. You know, we feel like we have it, we don't have it. Development is caused by the tax base. We make sure we can basically move businesses to certain areas. We give incentives to other places, and I understand what my opponent believes that that's one of the side effects you have to do. Bring the businesses in, which will increase trickle-down economics, but unfortunately, that doesn't always work out. Taxation in this area probably would have to be raised slightly because of mismanagement. The fact that we basically are almost $1 million overall behind the 8 ball because of the developer who reneged on his deal at the ballpark, which was done without people's input. There was no referendum to decide. If you give people a choice that we need to raise money, whether it's a simple bond referendum to build schools or improve quality of life, people will do that. They'll understand. They'll basically vote for that referendum. But give them the chance. The idea of raising taxes without people's input, that's absurd. But the idea of you're actually going to keep it low by just giving a break to somebody else, that's the wrong way of approach. We need to have a taxation that is fair to everybody, even if it means raising the property taxes, but now make sure that the developers also fulfill their agreements. So we don't have to basically put our city in the hock. Now, if I know properly, the North Augusta City is out $820,000. Hopefully they'll get the money, but I doubt it. The county is out over $60,000 on the same 17 plots of land that is basically in foreclosure. We need to raise salaries to affordable levels for the people that have a decent living. And we need to do that because it's going to bring jobs here. It's going to basically, people are going to reinvest that money into their communities because we basically shop local. The small local business also helps. So if we tax, we just have to tax the right way and fair to everybody. And every business, every property tax, every home is basically taxed on the same level playing field with people's input. That's the most important part. We have to have the citizens' input to our decisions, not just arbitrarily say, this is what we're going to do. Tough luck if you don't like it.
Thank you. We'll wrap this up with closing remarks from the two of you. Kelley, let's start with you. Your statement to end things on.
Wonderful. Like I said, I'm Kelley Mobley, and I'm excited about having this opportunity. I'm asking for our community's vote as we head into November 3rd. We've been through a challenging time this year, one of the most unique, challenging times in our nation's history with COVID and the economic challenges that have come from that. With that said, our citizens of our community are looking for one thing primarily, or two. I'm gonna say two things, and this can apply to all aspects of your life, and they've been looking for them forever. And those two things are transparency and good communication. And if we're transparent with the citizens of our community, we're transparent with the citizens of Aiken County, and we communicate effectively, and we keep people informed and keep people engaged, we have them understand what's going on at the riverfront development in North Augusta, what's driving the tax bill not being paid, what efforts are happening to stay in touch with the developer and bring the community together as a roundtable to keep that engine alive. Great things are happening. Great things are happening in Aiken County. Great things are happening in our community of North Augusta, and I look forward to being a part of continuing those great things, keeping communication open and honest, and being transparent in the process, and I ask for your vote on November the 3rd.
Thank you. You, David?
Well, I'm David Beja, and again, I'm the Democratic nomination for the District 4 County Council, and I want to thank you all for your consideration, and I ask you for your vote. But also, like I said, I want us all to move forward. Transparency is very important. I believe that to my heart. When I want one of the things to be done, hopefully, in this, if I get elected, is to basically change the way the county council minutes are written. It is written in such a way that if you don't have a law degree, it's hard to understand what they're basically saying. If we talk about transparency, that's the first step. We need to basically make sure things are written down and expressed to the people that anyone can understand. Secondly, I think as a county councilman, I would hold monthly meetings or town halls to ask my constituents what is their concerns, what do they want to bring. In the 4 years that I've lived in North Augusta, my county councilman has never mentioned or came to discuss anything with the constituents of our district. I know he did a good job or tried to do a good job, but I don't know a single thing that he accomplished. But as the new county councilman, I can promise that I will basically meet in every precinct of this district to hear what the constituents want to hear, to explain to them what was discussed at the last meeting, and have their input as to what my position should be, because I will represent you, Republican, Democrat, or Independent, in District 4. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.